Welcome to the BYOD podcast, Bring Your Own Directions. My name is Björn, co-CEO of Resolution, and this is the show where every guest sets their own path, sharing insights and ideas about Agile topics and the Atlassian ecosystem. Proudly sponsored by NASA, not another stand-up app. The Atlassian Marketplace app that makes Agile ceremonies, stand-ups, and planning sessions not just efficient, also enjoyable. So please stand by. And if you want to meet my guest today in person, he will be in the ACE event in London on the 6th of February. He will be also in Bristol on the 20th of February. And he will be also on the Connect High Velocity event on the 4th of March. So stay tuned for my guest. So welcome to the BYOD podcast, Bring Your Own Directions. Today with me is Jack. Jack is from Capable. I know him since a couple of years in different roles. And welcome, Jack. Hi.
Hi, Björn. How are you doing today?
I'm really fine. I'm really fine. So it's a little bit cloudy in Berlin, wet, relatively wet weather, but I'm totally fine. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
So so you're fighting a little bit with the jet lag, you said in the preparation. So you're coming from vacation.
Yeah, a little bit jet lagged today, but we'll be good, I think.
Perfect. Good. So, Jack, I explained before that we know us since a couple of years and that you had different roles. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, what you did in the past, what are you doing today, and so on.
Yeah, sure thing. So I'm Jack. I'm the CEO of Capable, and we're a Atlassian marketplace partner, just like yourself, Björn. And I'm a technical founder, but I also have experience in both product development and consulting across Agile, DevOps, etc. And I've built and scaled apps that are used worldwide by massive companies in Atlassian. But actually, like you said, I started off in consulting, and I think that gave me a really solid grounding in kind of what problems people face, right?
Yeah.
So primarily my consulting was in Atlassian tools, but I don't know if you remember these pieces of software called HP Quality Center, ALM, maybe IBM Doors as well.
Yeah, HP Quality Center I also saw in my previous life. I was never working with it, but I saw not so many happy faces when this app name was mentioned.
Well, those were the dark days, I think, before we had tools like Jira to bring a bit of sanity to everything, right?
Yeah.
So later I moved on to Atlassian and I fell in love with the tools. So ended up doing things like merging, splitting Jira and Confluence instances and all that nasty transformation projects that we all love. They're a big cash cow, of course.
For sure. And a lot of people are arguing about Atlassian, Jira, and so on. I mean, you mentioned already HP Quality Center. I had the chance a couple of weeks ago to see the ticket environment from a different company, from my girlfriend company. She asked me for a function, and well, maybe I know it. So classic situation, you're doing something with IT. Can you please check if you find a solution? And I saw this Microsoft ticket management system. So, whoa, what's that? I was totally helpless and also totally lost in space in this environment. So, yeah.
Well, I think Microsoft tools are you're either a Microsoft company or you're not, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I did consulting at places like HSBC, Dyson, Santander, and General Dynamics. So it gave me a good kind of basis for the challenges people face. But actually, my passion's always been development. Like that's my love is building solutions and seeing people use them, right? Helping them with their daily lives. So actually, I started out with something called canned scripts in Script Runner, which were like to solve a problem I had personally as a consultant.
It's always good to solve your own problems because maybe other people have the same problem. That's often the questions. I went to the Web Summit in Lisbon, in Lisboa last November, and a lot of I made the mistake. We had an investor badge, so it means that's a little bit like honey, having honey around you, and everybody's coming. Hey, can we talk? And here's my quick pitch. And my question was always, okay, did you have the same problem, or is it a problem what you faced, or is it just an idea? Because very often you're much better when you have the problem and you solve it because you know the pain from the feeling and not just from stories or research or whatever. Yeah, it's a good one.
Well, I think what you just said there is like the entrepreneur problem is, right? You know, we have this idea in our mind that this is a problem people face, but actually, there's a good quote, actually. I think Steve Jobs said, you know, you need to get close to your customers, so close that you actually realize what they need before they realize, right? So,
I think, yeah, he's right. Nobody said we need an iPhone. So,
so actually being on site and seeing your customers and what problems they're facing, that's the best, absolutely the best way to come up with ideas, because you're seeing it, right? Your boots on ground at that point.
yeah. So you said now that your first app or your first development was a CAN script. So was it then just that you used it, or was it also rolled out to other users in their own organization or other organizations?
So basically, as a consultant, I had to I had to clean up people's Jira systems. So I'd have to delete, say, 1,000 projects in one, right? So out the box, you had to click, 400 times to do that? So I basically wrote a really basic script that you give it some project IDs or keys, and it just deletes all of them.
Yeah.
And actually, I took that and built an app out of it, and it turned out that loads of people suffered from this problem. So IBM and Airbnb both mentioned this Optimize for Jira as something that helped them improve their systems.
Yeah. That's really cool. So it means that the idea was we had also the chance to become a product and was used from other customers. So it means you had this amazing experience that, oh, perfect. The development was totally useful for other people, for other people's problems too. Cool.
Yeah, and I think that's what brings me joy, is seeing, you know, something you've built is really helping someone else. There's something about that feeling. I'm sure you've felt the same way.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people or founders or entrepreneurs say, okay, I want to make money and so on, or want to have an exit in 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever years. And then I want to be the rich person in the room. But I personally think it's more valuable, and I see it also in our team, that they are super proud of when you have created a product, what millions of users using every day. So that gives you a good start in the day. It gives you passion, motivation to work on problems also when you have a bad day. So it's a much better motivator as just pure cash. Yeah, agree.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's where I got get my thrills from seeing what customers think.
Good. And this means, so you created the app and it was used from other people, so you were rich and you went on vacation, and now we are here. Or were there some steps in between?
With that product, we quickly got to $1 million annual revenue, and also got to platinum platinum marketplace partner. That's the one.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the point where we started scaling out the team, and you know, instead of it being like fighting for survival, you're now in that sort of growth phase where you're just trying to multiply the success, really.
How big was the team before you left this organization? Because I know you left the organization on some point. So how big was the team at the end?
I think it was about 15, and I think now it's at about 25. So
it's a decent size. So what would you say was the most challenging part? Because I saw it also when we invest in startups. So doing something with a group of 3, 4 is easy handleable. There's other challenges as doing something with a group of 10 or 15 people, same 150 or 1,500 people. So what would you say was your biggest challenge at this time, growing from entrepreneur, one person thing, one app idea to a 15-person organization?
I think the big one is that new features and innovation become less important because you've got a piece of software, it's feature complete, and actually the most important thing is keeping those customers happy, right?
Yeah.
And that's a different kind of mindset to be in. So you're not, for me, it wasn't as, say, fun, right? Because you can't come up with all these ideas and try them out because actually that's not the right thing for the business. So sometimes, right, the person that's the right person to take it from 1 to 1 million necessarily isn't the person to take it from 1 million to 10 million.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, some people are really good in the one step or one part of the journey, but in most of the cases, people also don't like it then. Yeah. So I met also a couple of founders. They're really good in doing these 1 to 10, 1 to 15 people thing. But then it starts, oh, we need to have regular meetings. I need to talk about budget. I need have HR tickets or HR problems now. And very often these type of founders are not the perfect person for bringing this from 15 to 50 people or 500. That's right. Yeah, I have the same experience.
Yeah, you're right. I think just what you said about meetings, basically, when your company gets to a certain size, you're probably going to find, I think you've found this, right, that 6 hours of your day is meetings, effectively, or some large quantity of your day's meetings. And some people love that. I personally prefer it when I can have my team members have some autonomy and I can trust them to do the work.
Yeah,
but that's more difficult as you scale up, obviously.
Yeah, it's funny because I mean, 15 years of my, I'm old, 20 years profession was really having meetings every day. So it was more a sales role, being an account manager or a salesperson, and then later leading sales teams, leading project management teams, etc. And my job was having meetings. So that's where I were paid for. And I measured 1 year. It was still the time where you made phone calls and not just Zoom stuff, etc. So, and the iPhone had at this time the possibility to measure your phone time, and I had an average phone time over the whole year of over 13 hours every day. And this included Saturday and Sunday because it was not possible to get it out of the data. So, and that was just a meeting time. So the day was split in 30-minute slices. And yeah, it's also an interesting job. Yeah, but it always felt, okay, on some point you need to work. So.
I think that's it. But are you sort of a hands-on person or do you prefer to orchestrate, right?
Yeah. That's definitely, that's a good point. Orchestration, yeah. Cool. What was so I'm hearing a little bit. So this 15-person milestone was on some point then also the point where you left. So what was the motivation for that, changing your journeys?
So I think really that was my big major success, building that from 0 to, I think it was 1.5 million a year in revenue. But actually I felt like I was a big fish in a small pond. And actually I hadn't worked at a big sort of development company before, right? I'd built it myself. I kind of wanted to see how other people did things beyond what I saw of consulting. So I decided to join the big daddy Adaptivist, of course. Yeah. And I worked on the script runner, like the webhooks that script runner looks after. So I think something like 10 million webhooks a day. Like it's a crazy number. And that gave me like two sides of the coin. That let me see the other side of, Adaptivist just reached, I think, 1,000 employees. So much different scale.
Yeah.
and that was really enjoyable, and I had a great team there. And but I did miss the big picture work, the ideation
Okay, yeah.
stuff.
In an organization with a couple of hundreds or 1,000 people, you normally work on a piece of a big picture.
Yeah,
So yeah, I can understand it. So you have a lot of handovers. You're getting stuff which is half done already. You put a piece on it, then you give it to the next person. They put a piece on it, and somewhere at the end of the process, there is a product or a service or a solution or whatever. Yeah,
yeah. I guess kind of like you're a cog in a big machine, right?
yeah,
But actually, it was actually one of the best places I've worked before Adaptivist because of the support that they gave. It just I kind of had big aspirations, I guess, and that's where Capable came in, right? That's where we started working, where I started working towards my own company.
yeah. That's interesting. What would you say is when you think back to your time at Adaptivist? I mean, I'm a strong believer that we learn out of mistakes, yeah, and challenges much better as of successes. You can also learn from successes, but you learn much better from a mistake. So, what would you say was your biggest mistake or challenge at Adaptivist, where you really said, "Oh shit, oh, this is something what I learned in a bigger organization," or where you had the situation after this, okay, now I learned something because I am in this bigger organization. Do you can remember on something?
I think it's there's so many different aspects you need to take into consideration at a bigger company. One might be, say, politics as well.
Mm,
The bigger the company, the more kind of people you need to talk to get things done. And yeah, that's quite a challenge when you're used to kind of your small team where you're the boss basically. To
yeah,
move to a company where you actually need to get buy-in from stakeholders.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I think that was the biggest challenge, was kind of changing your mindset from like I'm going to build this thing to we need to come to a conclusion together.
that's interesting because that was my or that was a turning or changing point for me on some point when in my previous job, my last role was I was leading a sales team, a European sales team of roughly 50 people. So 5, 6 people Germany, 5, 6 people UK, and so on. You get the idea. And I realized on some point that yes, I spent all my time in meetings, but most of the meetings was forgetting or hearing about problems from my teammates, trying to fix these problems, and this often needed the buy-in from other stakeholders. And I was mainly like an internal machine without an effect outside. It felt after a while, okay, I'm just working internal. I hear a problem or I get a spreadsheet. I change something and create another spreadsheet and send it to the next person, stakeholder, and try to get buy-in for doing something. And this is cool. I liked it a lot. But then on some point, my heart was more on the sales and meeting customers and solving their problems. Because then again, what you said, the feeling when you solved a customer problem or you created a value for somebody, is a different game as creating value for something internal or get a buy-in for a stakeholder. So that was for me then the trigger for leaving the previous company and joining Resolution. So
Yeah, so was your
interesting.
job like I use the term like hitman, right? You're the problem solver
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
business.
yeah. Cool, perfect. So sounds like I know that Adaptivist was not your last stop. I mean, you said it also in the beginning. You are now a tech founder or founder again. So, what was your motivation to finishing the story or your journey with Adaptivist?
Yeah, so I obviously I realized going there that I love building tools that make people more productive and seeing that that happen and see what result that had. And I found that my sweet spot was a blend of the strategy and the actual tech the implementation. So I like bridging that gap between ideas and execution. And I think the thing I realized was that's kind of an entrepreneur, right? That's basically, I've just described an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And doing that within an existing company, it's not really realistic because you need to involve other people more. So yeah, my love of that side led me to realize I needed to start my own company. So I took a little bit of time off to kind of figure out what that product was I wanted to build. And then I just went all in on Capable.
That's interesting because a lot of people starting then, yeah, with an idea a little bit as a side project. I mean, we both know Biro and Nikki, for example. They did it as a side project and started, and then they were on some point at the point where they need to make the decision, but they had already some customers. There was an app in the marketplace. So product market fit was, yes, clear. And now it was the point that how can they enable themselves to leaving the day jobs to work full time on it? So that's a bold move, like you did it. So quitting at Adaptivist and saying, okay, now I'm sitting down and think about some ideas, problems, and maybe I found a company. So interesting.
Yeah, I think like obviously there's multiple ways to skin a cat. That's a bad way of saying it, but yeah, I think obviously you can either start with it as a side project or you can go all in, and actually they're both valid approaches. And like you said, Jexo, that worked out really well for Biro and Nikki.
Yeah.
And it was really great following Foxley
For sure.
on its success.
Was it easy for you to do it? I mean, I could imagine, I mean, we all have our costs, yeah. So we all have somehow maybe a loan for a house or whatever. So, I mean, it's not that we have big bank accounts and we can easily say, okay, now I'm taking off a couple of months and pay it from all my savings and so on. I could imagine this puts also a lot of pressure on you because now you're in a situation, shit, I need to have an idea now.
Yeah, I'd say that's something I've realized is like being a solo founder is very different to having a co-founder, and actually a lot more of the buck stops with me at the end of the day, right? I can't really palm it off to someone and things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say it's definitely stressful, right? But you've got your mortgage to pay for and things, but actually life's fun when you take risks, right? Most people tend to like to settle for, comfortable. But I think it's just the right time for me. I don't have children yet. So this was really the right time for me. And yeah, it's fun. You enjoy it, right? It's all part of the fun.
That's cool. I mean, so far it was the right decision. I know you have apps in the marketplace. You are not alone anymore. I mean, we will come to this a little bit later. But okay, cool. So now Capable. Tell us a little bit about Capable. What was at the end the idea, what you found, which problem you solved? Go not too much in details because we have later a part where we discuss it a little bit more in detail, but just as a small summary, what is Capable doing?
So what we do primarily right now, we have an app called Capable for Confluence, which is our all-in-one solution. And then we also have standalone apps for each of the features. So the idea is that Capable for Confluence is Confluence Plus. It's effectively all of the things, the core functionality that Confluence is missing, Capable provides in one product. So we focus on filling the gaps that Atlassian have missed out. Things like approval, calendars, like scheduling, diagrams as well, and sort of wrapping that all up into a really consistent interface. So our goal is to make collaboration smoother, more efficient, and less frustrating. And what that gives us is all of our products are consistent. They're all similar. If you've learned one of our products, you can learn all of them. They follow the same design language. Whereas I think if you look at our competitors, you'll end up installing like 6, 7 apps to do what our app does. And each app will have a different UI, a different support team, a different price. And I think what Capable is we want to do this better. We want to be your one-stop shop for solving your needs in Confluence.
So it means also, okay, and in addition, you avoid context switching from the user. So I also see it often from a user perspective. I mean, we are creating more Jira apps as Confluence apps, which is sometimes a pity because our most successful blog article is about Confluence. So, but anyway, that's a different story. But when, now I lost my point. So when you think about how users adapting apps and switching from 2 different apps or then back to a main functionality is very often a context switching, which takes time, which is stressful. And that's interesting that you have, first of all, one app which have all these capabilities. I mean, capable, and now the name makes sense. But okay, you also roll it out separate. So what is the motivation for having these functionalities also released as separate apps in some cases? What is the idea behind this?
So I think while we're really proud that our solution solves, all of these needs, I think 90% of what most Confluence users need, we are aware also that some people, existing users, may have already a solution for X, right?
Yeah.
Or Y. And actually, they may just want one of our solutions, so standalone. So the way we developed this is kind of the technical side. Capable is one code base. It's all one kind of platform. And actually, there's little to no overhead for us as Capable to deploy these apps individually or as a suite.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of a really big technological achievement that we have over our competitors, is that we don't have 6, 7, 8 code bases. We have one.
Yeah, that's a smart move. I mean, I remember when we started our Atlassian cloud journey, we started with a couple of embed apps. We throw 15 embed apps on the wall and wanted to identify which one sticks as an idea with user engagement and so on. And we created embed Smartsheet, embed Typeform, Zoom recordings, all this stuff. And one competitor came up with the idea to do exactly the same, but with one code base. And he rolled out, I think, 200-ish apps for nearly every successful service in the internet on one code base. And I said, shit, that is really a smart move. Why was this not our idea? And I hated it because I have a new competitor, but I also liked it, and definitely need to say kudos to them because that was a good move. Yeah, interesting.
I think I know who you're on about, and I'd agree. I think one thing that I would bear in mind with that is that, like with Capable, right? It's a greenfield project, so we started from scratch, and I believe the same's true for that company as well. I doubt they would have been able to do it if they already had 10, 15 apps on the marketplace. Yeah. So it's just a matter of, I think, timing. They entered the market, and we did, at the time where we didn't have a load of, not technical debt, but like a maintenance, like legacy products to look after.
Yeah. No, yeah, interesting point. Good, perfect. I would like to jump to our next, let's call it agenda point. So first of all, thanks a lot for this introduction and also the first conversations what we had. I asked some questions in the preparation to you in a survey. So the survey is mostly about agile ceremonies, focused on stand-up meetings, but has also some questions which are super valid for other meetings and so on. And it's interesting. We will look in a second to your answers. It's super interesting because you worked in so many different environments. So I assume you have also seen a lot of different strategies how to do meetings professional, effective, and so on. So let's look into it. So let me share my screen. So entire screen, and here we go. Okay. So the first questions are around journaling. We are not going in every questions in detail. So what we see here for all the people who are not just hearing the podcast, also seeing this stuff, we have two graphs. So one graph is the average of the podcast, which is at the moment just Chris Boy's, because it's a second episode. And then we have the orange bar, which reflects your answers. And there are some classic ones. The updates from my teammates are relevant and they need help and so on. So we don't go into this because there's one interesting point on your answers for journaling. As you said, I prepare and have notes and issue keys for my reference. And you said you strongly agree. So Chris Boyce was neutral on this point. And I think that's what we also learned from a lot of customers from our side. This is a really hard behavior to train this behavior to prepare meetings also with a journaling structure somehow. So what is your magic sheet or your recommendations for everybody how to stick to a behavior like this?
I think it is difficult to prepare for these stand-ups because I think, as you know, usually people have to stand up first thing in the morning. They've just got their cup of coffee, right? And they probably don't remember kind of from the day before what the points were. But what we do at Capable is our team always prepares a bullet point list of what they want to discuss in that meeting so that we can actually jump straight to the discussion. Because what I found in the past is if they don't do this, they tend to just bring up things that maybe aren't actually worth discussing.
Talking
because
about
they're trying to fill
the weekend.
They're trying to kind of come up with what they want to discuss on the fly. So I think you do need to do some preparation. I think that's 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes work. Just jot down things the day before, usually for me.
And is it work? I mean, the podcast is also sponsored from our NASA app, where we exactly trying to implement this behavior that every teammate need to prepare the meeting because we strongly believe it make the meeting more efficient. I saw it in the past for in organizations where I worked for or when I did consulting and so on, that it's super difficult to keep these behavior over a longer time, that everybody prepares a stand-up meeting with a bullet point list on a specific page or something like that. So how is your experience there?
I'd agree. It does. People tend to, what's the word? Not fall off, right? They kind of, a few weeks will be brilliant, and then maybe you kind of get settled, right? Settled in your ways. I think tools like NASA, where it's kind of a structure, it's actually rigidly built to kind of enforce that structure. Those things are really great because it just takes I don't have to nag my staff to to write those notes because actually it's part of our ceremony.
That was exactly the idea, to take this also away from Scrum Masters and so on, or team leads, that they always need to remember, hey guys, please prepare the meeting. So because in the NASA app, it's super obvious when you haven't prepared your meeting, because in the live meeting, your screen is empty. Interesting point. But
I think it's also a good time because a lot of teams are now starting to experiment with the idea that they don't need a Scrum Master, right? That they can actually kind of get rid of that staff member and just have another developer potentially. And maybe tools like NASA actually can help companies to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we don't have dedicated Scrum Masters. There's a role in addition to other roles to specific people. And the Scrum Master has so many important responsibilities that taking away to remind people on their preparation of a meeting is maybe first of all a time saver, and also makes or give the chance that Scrum Masters can focus on the more important points. But yeah, also for organizations who are not using Scrum Masters and so on, because then normally another person needs to do it. And you're absolutely right. Then it's much harder to get somehow a structure in something because nobody is responsible. When you say to everybody, hey, you are self-responsible about your meeting quality, and nobody gives a shit on it, then you have relatively quick a bad meeting quality. Cool, perfect. Let's check out what sticks out in the next one. So, nothing, active listening. So it's exactly the same like Chris Boyce. So yeah, okay. You ask questions for identifying synergies and remove blockers, okay. Engaging with colleagues, celebrate stuff, provide emotional support, also okay, and listen to my colleagues' updates and avoid multitasking. I think that these avoiding multitasking, we discussed also with Chris Boyce heavily, that this is something respect to the update of the teammate is an important thing. I also heard so many podcasts that multitasking is a lie and doesn't exist really, and it makes stress situations for your brain. But anyway, what is your magic here in the active listening part? Because when you actively ask questions, and maybe also a detailed question from time to time in meetings, this can move or can become immediately a detailed discussion, and you start to have a discussion between two people and you bore five people to death in parallel. So how do you balance this?
I've had that so many times, right? It happens all the time. You'll have a stand-up meeting and you want to be focused on those three questions. But like you said, some question may come up where we want to discuss it, but it doesn't involve the other people on the call. And so they get disengaged, they're wasting time, they're wasting your money at the end of the day, right? Just sitting on the call. So I think that's where you need to take things to like a breakout room effectively. So what I do is any topic that needs discussion, I will loop back with that person after the stand-up so that we don't waste other people's time.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's also the best practice written in so many books, and it's still so difficult. I see it by myself. So I know it. I'm the product owner for the NASA app. I know exactly how it should happen. And then I'm the person who is starting a discussion in the stand-up meeting or presenting a 10-minute thing in my update. So it's hard, but interesting. Cool.
I definitely find myself also wanting to discuss things and talk about things, but you have to kind of like pinch yourself sometimes.
I mean, at the moment you are in the lucky situation that your team is relatively small. So you're three people now.
Yeah.
So I mean, then in this size, it's not so important what is the topic of the meeting. When there is something to discuss, there is not the risk that you bore five people to death because you're only three.
I think it can happen no matter what the size. When you start to see someone kind of their eyes glazing over.
Yeah. I see it always in Zoom videos when people are super concentrated on something, then I know exactly, okay, there is a different screen at the moment, or browser or Slack or email, whatever, on top. Cool. Value delivery. Here's also a standout thing. So the questions here are mostly about your thoughts. Is stand-up helpful in addressing solving blockers and so on? And you mostly agree to every point what we have here. So that was, is it solving blockers? Yes. Is it easy to understand the colleagues' output? Also yes. Handovers, feedback loops better? Also yes. Focus on the progress? Also yes. And is a stand-up helpful to align dynamic environment, new problems, challenges, etc. So Chris Boyce had a little bit of different answers here. And he also mentioned that especially these progress on goals is hard in stand-up meetings. So what is your magic here? So because you said, no, this stand-up is super helpful to focus on the progress on goals.
I think the thing here is, I think what this question means to me is that many of the tasks that we are dealing with in stand-ups, like our developers are working on, they're quite small, micro kind of things. Like they're not goals, business goals, effectively, right? They could be, I don't know, I want to make this button green. So it's difficult sometimes to kind of say, well, how does that link back to a goal?
Yeah.
Right. And I think the thing is, you've always got to think from the customer's point of view, what's the point of us doing this task? And always try and lead it back to that. Because the moment you lose track of the point, which is the customer, you're just kind of micromanaging little small tasks at that point.
Yeah.
More of a project manager than an agile side.
Yeah. So have you in all your previous jobs, I mean, probably or maybe also at Capable, are you doing strict all agile ceremonies like a planning, like a retro, like a sprint review, stand-ups, backlog refinement, grooming? Are you stick totally to the structure, or are you skipping some of these meetings, or maybe merging some of them, these ones?
Yeah, we do merge because the team is small, but mainly because we're distributed. My developer is based in Japan, which means that it's the nighttime when we wake up for him. So it would be a bit unfair and a bit unmindful of me to kind of do a sprint review, a retrospective, and it's midnight for him right then.
Today, 5 meetings. So, yeah, okay, got it. Cool, perfect. Thanks a lot for answering these questions. And I think, I mean, the podcast is called Bring Your Own Directions, and you are allowed to replace the, and you mentioned the word already, what you have chosen. So you choose disruption. So what's the reason for that? Bring your own disruption. So what's the story behind this?
So yeah, it's a bit of a like zeitgeist word, isn't it? It's probably going to wind up a few people, I think. What does it mean?
So they all stop now listening. Okay, disruption. Okay.
So I think setting the stage would be that, like we said, the Atlassian marketplace has over 4,000 apps now. We've heard, like I said previously, there's too many apps. People say, how do I know which ones work together? Why does all the apps have different UIs and different experiences and all this, right? And this is, I'll kind of segue into why we're disrupting that, in that the problem is that choice is inefficient, right? Teams lose time evaluating, learning, switching between tools. And every app has a price and they all add up quickly. And that's not just monetary price. And I like to call this app fatigue. So there's so many apps. You probably had this on your phone. Like, how many apps do I have on my phone? Too many.
Yeah.
And that becomes a problem, right? Because you want to solve a problem. You've got like 50 different ways you could do it. So I think it's this fragmentation part which we're trying to focus on. So like I said, each app has a different UI, a different learning curve, different support, and a price.
Yeah.
And there's no interoperability between those. And there's no way to interoperability, to have them integrated.
Yeah. That's an interesting point. Let's stick to this for a moment. I mean, you mentioned, okay, every app has their own, let's say, own user journey, but you also mentioned as own price, etc. So as we know now, the Capable for Confluence exists as one app with a lot of functionalities. And we also know that the world of Atlassian customers is changing. I mean, we're now really deep diving in marketplace app vendor stuff on the Atlassian marketplace thing. But on data center, it was or still is relatively normal, and in the past also on server, that customers installed 20, 30 apps or 40, 50. I met customers with over 200 apps. So on cloud, it's different for a lot of reasons. A lot of customers, when they are more security focused and so on, I met a couple of customers, they migrating to cloud without any app because they say we can't control it. What's going on in the app, especially when it's a Connect app and not a Forge app. I think your app is a Forge app, huh?
Yep, Forge, completely Forge.
So it means everything stays in the customer instance, so nothing is going out. So that was one thing, but also Atlassian is taking, and that fits to your disruption point, is taking a lot of, or disrupts a lot of use cases of app vendors. I think the last stuff, what I see is that they have now also a timer for stand-up meetings, so that's a little bit disruptive for the NASA app. But there were also other things in the past, like doing Confluence pages more beautiful with separate themes, items, and so on. And Atlassian is going now in this direction as well.
Yeah.
So, and this leads to an environment where less, or cloud customers installing less, not so many apps anymore. Mm-hmm. Is your plan, or was this also part of your strategy to do it as one app to create more stickiness with customers? Because that means you are maybe with Capable, the app at the end of the list, well, or more on the top of the list, but at the end of the decision process, when somebody needs to say, okay, which apps we don't need anymore. And when Capable uses a lot of different use cases, then you have a super strong story to stay in customer environments. Do you see this as a benefit?
Yes, I do. I think, like you said, Atlassian have been increasingly, I think it's because of Monday, let's say. I'm just going to be blunt. It's Monday.com comes with so much stuff embedded in it that Jira and Confluence now need to kind of, this is the new, the new normal, is that more stuff needs to come in the app. Like you said, the countdown timer, the checklists in Jira, that's a big one.
Yeah, definitely.
I just saw they're doing a issue scheduling, which is going to probably, again, disrupt a number of apps. So yeah, I think the thing with Capable is that it's got so many features that some of your team might be using some of them, some people might be using others, but actually you're all using the same system at the end of the day. So yeah, like you said, it creates stickiness. It's consistent UI as well. So yeah, it's not like we haven't got all of our eggs in one basket, if you will. That's one way you could say.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, in my previous life, I had one big customer for many, many years and a lot of other customers as well. But for many years, I had just one big customer. It's always nice because you can serve your customer on a perfect way. You are like the extended workforce for the organization. But yeah, it's also a risk. But that's a super interesting point, I think, where the whole environment is also changing, because when you choose disruption, so let's put another point in the discussion here. So I strongly believe that it's more and more the end of very generic apps, which are solving just one generic problem. Because yes, Atlassian is you mentioned checklists, yeah? So checklist is not difficult for Atlassian to do it. So they can do a base function of it. So then you could create a story. Okay, but all the other checklist apps have tons of more features. But then you have again the aspect, but the reality is that most of the customers just using 20% of the features. And when this is exactly the match what Atlassian is doing, then
80%, right? The 80% rule.
Yeah, exactly. But nowadays, since 2 years, we have another technology, AI, which is also disrupting app ideas, or in general, complete, not just app ideas, also service ideas and so on. When I compare what I can do now alone just with 10 AI subscriptions, In the past, I needed a complete team. I needed much more knowledge. I needed external agencies for things, so especially marketing and so on. And now I can do this one-stop shop a worker, and I can easily multiply my efficiency with 2 or 3 at the moment, just with AI tools. What is your view on these disruption points from AI tools nowadays?
So it's been a crazy few years with AI, right? It's kind of everyone is just not sure what it could bring. What could AI do? What can't it do? And I think AI is an amazing tool, but I think it's the confluence of AI and expert systems that actually is the key here. AI can solve so many things, but there's things like approvals and scheduling and things where it's kind of it doesn't do collaboration as much, I'd say. So yeah, I think we're kind of realizing like AI was this big kind of bump, and we're like, is AI going to solve all of our problems? And I think now we're kind of realizing it's going to solve most of our problems, but maybe not all of them, right? There's still room for expert systems and perplexity and things like that. It's nice to see that in practice, actually. You're seeing there, say, using Selenium to like command a web browser, for example. It's using technology and AI together to solve a problem.
Yeah, I think that's at the moment it was never so hard to foresee a little bit the future. So in the past, I mean, also I assume you and also not me can definitely give a good forecast for the future. But normally you had roughly an idea what technology will bring in the next couple of years. You saw early indicators, then you saw when a technology was adopted, and you had also a relatively good feeling when a technology is somehow on the highest point and a new thing will come up. And I think that was normally 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I think from 1900 to 2000, it was 30 years for every major technology development, television, internet, etc. There was always 30 years, and now we have just a couple of months in between new things. That's crazy, and I think, especially, I mean, last 7 days when I opened Google, YouTube, or any news feed, it was about DeepSeek. And they disrupted relatively, or we don't know if they disrupted, but they created a similar AI large language model with similar capabilities like OpenAI for a small amount of investment and money on a much cheaper way as open source. I mean, open source from China, you can always discuss it, but as an open source thing. And I think that was an interesting point for, will AI help us in every point, or where is place for an app? Till last week, very often the answer was from a lot of experts, AI is simply too expensive to run it for tasks like approvals, or to make headlines beautiful on a Confluence page, or creating a diagram in a Confluence page. It's simply too expensive. It's from an economic factor not perfect. But in the last 7 days, we saw this huge drop of costs in theory. And this, I think, will allow developers, but also organizations to completely rethink the aspect of the costs of AI.
So I think Atlassian launched Rovo, for example, their AI bot, but they're charging a separate price for it. I think what we need to see is actually these, and other companies like Intercom are charging you per use, like per AI completion, for example, $2 per completion. I think what we need to move towards is where AI is just part of the product and it's included. There's no additional cost. And that's actually what we've done is we have AI features and we don't charge any extra for them.
Okay.
I think that's the future.
Yeah, hopefully yes, because at the moment I pay so many AI subscriptions just for testing things, and then I forget to cancel it, because I found the more interesting tool. I mean, at the moment the most important role is, or rule, not role, is never go for a yearly subscription, because next week there is a better tool. But interesting. Um, a last point in disruptions, when I mean, now we had a little bit AI and so on. That's a super interesting part. But when we go to back to the Atlassian world, and the app world on Atlassian. So, I mean, the marketplace from Atlassian is amazing. It was founded over 10 years ago. It was state of the art 10 years ago. But nowadays we see that the subscription business has changed so much that we're talking about different plans normally, so that I can serve different user needs. I saw it in other technologies, like I worked many years in a Cisco ecosystem. There it was relatively clear that you have basic users, power users, expert users. They are licensed different. You had things like now I forgot the name. So when you just license 100 users, but 1,000 users can use it, but in the middle it need to be 100 at the same time, and so on. So this doesn't exist in the subscription business at the moment, because that's driving the margin in subscription business. So
Segmentation.
Yeah, segmentation. So what are your views on app editions? Because that could be also interesting thing for Capable, I assume. So, and can disrupt a little bit also all the other apps. So when you have an app edition, hey, with tons more features, or like you mentioned, AI should be part of the product, but the reality is you have costs behind it. So we have it also with our language translation app, that customers who are having tons of translations, they have a complete different cost profile as a customer with not so many translations, but they may be paying the same. So what are your thoughts about app editions in the marketplace?
I think the first thing to address is that these are effectively SKUs, right? If you're talking about physical products, these would be like SKUs. Yeah. And the problem with SKUs is like it's confusing a little bit. I could have a Jira premium subscription and then a standard subscription to your app, but then a premium subscription to another app. Like it kind of like, if you remember back to the iPhone, right? The iPhone originally, there was one iPhone. You either had it or you didn't.
Yeah.
And now they've got the iPhone Plus, the iPhone Pro, the iPhone Pro Max. Like obviously it's market segmentation, so you can extract the most money out of the customers who, like you said, are using it the most. I think you've got to be careful with it. It adds some confusion that you need to explain to your customers what they're getting with those. But for us at Capable, I like the sound of the app editions. We're investigating some enterprise capabilities. So these will be things around security and protecting data. And I can see that being really a logical kind of premium version of our suite, so that those capabilities will be behind a paywall effectively. And it will be the big companies, the FTSE 100, the S&P 500 companies that will pay that because they want those features. Yeah. But we also don't want to charge that for our standard customers.
Yeah. I mean, it's I like your point with it hiding features behind a paywall. I had it when I prepared for our stream here. So we are using Riverside at the moment. So, and the 24 frames, by the way, are just in this plan. You need to go to a higher plan if you want to have the 30 frames per second. So guys, why? That makes no sense for me. And Atlassian,
that's why. Because what will they charge triple the price just for that 4 extra frames that you want?
I don't know what the cost of the plan is, because on Riverside the 30 frames are only on business plans, and that's a classic one called sales. Yeah. So to all SaaS companies, please don't do it with a call sales. I know that you want to talk to the customer, but I need to have an idea what are the costs for that. Because when I would have an idea for the 30 frame price now, I probably would have clicked on the upgrade button before we start the stream because I want to have the 30 frames. But now we are on 24, whatever. But I think Atlassian and Miro, or Atlassian copied from Miro. I think Miro had very long time their free plan where you just were limited to three Miro boards. So in this lead to a situation that you had one big Miro board with 10,000 different topics on it because you had these endless Zoom. And Atlassian did the same when they came up with whiteboards for Confluence, that it was, you can create, I think, 3 boards, and then you need to upgrade to Confluence Premium. And that's shitty because it creates this downside. You start to adapting a feature and then, come on, insert more coins, please.
Yeah. You will find some customers will work around, like you said, with Miro, like the people that are maybe smaller, they can't afford the plan.
Yeah.
But I think it's almost like about annoying your customers into paying you money, right?
Yeah, and that's what I hear nowadays from a lot of Atlassian customers. I mean, we all see the continuous price increases on data center and on cloud, plus inventing new products and giving them also a price tag. So, I mean, I understand Atlassian. Somehow it makes sense with Rovo to charging $20 and more for it per user, because that's also the OpenAI subscription in the background for it. So it's cost related. But I think sometimes it's a better strategy to drive adoption first on a feature, and understanding the value of the feature for customers, potentially also talk to your customers. How valuable is it for you? So, and how much can I charge in the future that fits to your value? And now what happened with Rovo, you have it for 30 days. For bigger organizations, that's way too short to figure out what could be the value on Rovo. And then you need to license all users. That's in bigger organization. Ouch. I mean, Rovo is the most costly Atlassian product nowadays. Yeah. So you can't buy a Jira license, which is so expensive. So, and it's not working standalone. That's also the interesting point. No, I think that's, I would have chosen a different strategy for it. I think also the app editions, I like your point with the confusion, because I mean, Atlassian has a lot more ideas. They published it on a public forum, so we can talk about it. So they have more ideas for pricings, doing more a named user pricing, also having something like for apps, for marketplace apps, that they can do it. They also have something like a usage pricing, but not on top, more as an alternative to user pricing. Some good ideas like separating JSM to Jira users and so on. I think that makes sense. But I think what we will see is that apps will not cost $2 or $1 in the future. They will cost $9.99, because the pricing models will completely change. And somebody on the customer side need to manage the whole chaos of all the different user definitions, premium, basic plans, and so on. That will be disruptive. Cool.
Yeah, I think it's because Atlassian's become more. Atlassian is the de facto standard, let's say, right, in terms of agile project management. I would say, I'd posit, and they can charge these. They can have, like, what do they have now? 30 different products, 30 different SKUs. Each one has its own cost, and I mean, it comes back to what I said. Like the iPhone. I wish there was one iPhone, one price.
Yeah.
I get everything. It's simple, right?
Yeah.
But Atlassian's moving on to this kind of, they're the de facto standard. They're looking at Salesforce's model. They're hiring staff from Salesforce. You know, they're really moving towards getting the most money out of their customers, which you can't blame them for.
yeah, for sure. I think I saw it 2 days ago, a table with all the Atlassian competitors. It was from a financial advisor, because I think Atlassian has a quarter end in January, and a lot of financial advisors writing at the moment about Atlassian and their outlook and forecast and blah, blah, blah. And there was a table with all the competitors, Monday.com, a couple of others as well. And Atlassian is still the cheapest one of them. So I think that's also part of their strategy, more financial triggered. Hey, we can charge more. Competitors are more expensive as well. I think that's okay on some point. I mean, we're doing sometimes the same in pricing strategies, and for a good pricing strategy, it's definitely an important part is competitor research and what they are charging and so on. But yeah, for existing customers who are getting every year at the moment, and hey, by the way, 10% up, 20% up, it could be challenging. So I feel the pain with every person who need to ask for a higher budget every year. Perfect. Interesting topic. I like it. Bring your own disruption. I think we can easily talk an hour more about disruption in the Atlassian marketplace, user disruption, app disruption, Atlassian disruption. But let's jump to the next point. So because our last point, our last agenda point in the podcast is the 0612. So where I have 3 questions for you. And we are direct jumping into it. Let me share my screen again that we have some visuals. And entire screen, here we go.
Am I going to be marked on my answers here?
No. So I haven't prepared anything. We are just seeing your updates. So we are again in NASA, not another stand-up app. I'm misusing here a little bit one of our meeting structures, a team meeting structure where you can run Agile ceremonies, planning meetings, retro meetings, and so on. Good. So what's our first question? I still need to go back to my dev guys here for this bug. Because the tool is definitely not prepared for using it for interview questions. Good. So what is an interesting challenge that you have faced recently where you couldn't find an existing playbook to get to your goals? And I think you mentioned it already with a short sentence that managing a distributed team across time zones is a good one, and that's interesting because you say now that you haven't found an existing playbook. The interesting point is so many organizations have exactly this problem. So what is the story behind it? I mean, you're saying here, okay, embracing asynchronous workflows. That's always a challenge. So what's the story behind the point here?
So personally, I've managed distributed teams before, but they've been all kind of Europe. Like Adaptivist was, we had team members. At least my team had members in Europe.
Yeah, okay, that's easy. That's what just 1 hour force or back.
Yeah. So that was kind of not too different. But my developer moved to Japan, and Japan is like I can't remember the exact hour difference, but 7 or 8 hours, I think. Difference. So it's actually kind of when we're working in Europe, he's asleep. But so actually that's been the most interesting challenge I've had to face recently, has actually been moving to a kind of fully distributed team, and how we go about that without being mindful with your employees being in other time zones, that it could be 9 p.m. for them, and it's not very fair. My developer will stay up as late as I want him to, but I don't. I don't want him to do that. It's.
So what do you think? I heard it from some managers, also managers of big companies. So I say it a little bit in my words, that they're giving a shit about in which time zone they are. They moved to Japan. So that was their own decision. They know that the rest of the team is working in time zone XYZ. So that's a focused time zone. They need to handle it. What do you think about these statements like this?
Obviously, you can ask your staff, I'm okay if you move time zones, but you have to work my hours. I think that's not very mindful of that person. And if you trust them to do a good job, then it doesn't matter where they are. It doesn't matter what time zone they're in. it comes across to me like you don't trust them. Like you need them to be online when you're online so you can keep watching over their back. But that's not how you should run a business. You know, you should trust your staff. If you don't trust your staff, fire them.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's at the moment anyway the big discussion because Amazon or who made a couple of Silicon Valley companies moved back their stuff into the office. And I think Spotify had these huge advertisement campaigns. So why are you doing it? We are trusting our employees. So interesting point. So what is, I mean, dog fooding your own tools, I assume you mean capable with that. You're also you're going more to an asynchronous workflow. So you mentioned the journaling for stand-up stuff. So I assume you're using this more and more. But what is your recommendation for somebody who now need to search also for a playbook because he or she has the same problem? What would be your recommendation for a starting point? How to organize it? What was your starting point?
Discussing with the staff member what's the right way of us doing this, and iterating. You're not going to get it right first time. There's going to be some pain. There's going to be some early or late hours to begin with, but you'll eventually get into it. And there's lots of tools you can use to help with this. So that's, I think, the first thing I'd say.
Perfect.
I'm not sure there's a one-size-fits-all kind of rule to do this, really. It depends on the staff member, really.
That's I think that's a really good one. Talk to the people. Yeah, because sometimes I'm also have sometimes the sickness that I can create relatively quick a plan by myself, and in my head it sounds like the best plan after sliced bread, and then you present it to the team and you see a lot of faces with, no, I don't like it. So what's the idea for that?
I think like one thing I would say on this was that penultimate point that I made about we do have a weekly meeting with all staff. So I would never give that up. You need all your staff members to talk to each other, at least once a week, really. Or else they might feel lonely. They might feel disconnected from the rest of the business.
There is a socializing aspect,
so that's kind of one thing I would say is don't alienate your staff who's remote, like keep them in.
So a lot of companies asking us, because of the NASA app, is asynchronous meeting also possible? And yes, it is possible, but that's also always my answer. So I'm a strong believer that, especially for developers, where during a sprint, when you are working in a sprint cadence, in some organizations, a stand-up meeting is the only social interaction with a team, with voice and video and so on. So when you also do this asynchronous, then this person is probably alone for 2 weeks and just has a planning meeting or something like that. So it is an important aspect to thinking about. So what is the time? Which time you found now for the full team meeting with Japan and UK? So you are based in UK. So what is the time now? Is it your night or the night from your developer in Japan?
So at the moment it's let's see, it's 1 a.m. For my developer, and it's 6 p.m. for me.
Wow,
So we have our weekly meeting at 9 a.m. UK time, so that it's It's just once a week though, so I think it's fair enough to ask that, but I would not ask him to do it every day. That would be a bit.
Is it for him on a Friday night that he can have party first and then he need to leave the party early to join the team meeting, or on which day is it?
It's on Monday.
Okay, good. So he can have. I mean, I'm based in Berlin, so people also doing parties on Monday. So good.
Oh yeah, the techno club. Yeah, I could go for that.
Perfect. Cool. Super interesting answer to it. Okay, let's go to the next one. What do you think? What do you face the next 6 months? So your answer here is establish a partner network. Okay, you're a new startup, you're in the Atlassian marketplace ecosystem. So there are tons of solution partners in it. I know it from the past and also actual roughly 70% of the business is done via solution partners, because very often an app needs also somebody who can explain the value, taking the customer on the hand and walking with the customer the first steps in the adoption journey and so on. It's an interesting challenge. So what is your plan? How do you want to face it?
So I think up to now we've just been depending on our in-house marketing and our in-house kind of sales. And actually that was the right move when we were moving from MVP to 1.0 product. Yeah. But now that we have got an established name, we've got an established product, now I think we're in a great position now to actually establish a wider kind of partner network. And that's going to be the next kind of step for us to drive adoption of our products. So this isn't going to happen overnight. This is going to involve a number of kind of discussions around, what's our model going to be for partners? Like, what do they get out of it, right? Yeah. And enabling them to sell our products as well.
Cool. We can also use it as a shout out here. Hopefully a lot of people from the Atlassian community is seeing this. So when somebody as a solution partner want to partner up with Capable, then they simply should reach out to you. I'm looking forward to see your partner model. I also like that you mention here the partner enablement program, because that's very often these partner models are focused on what are discounts. Here's the marketing material. Here's a website. Here's a battle card. And I did this tour with Refined, Easy BI, Easy Agile, and Elements in the last year. And nearly every solution partner told us we need use cases. We need to understand how people using your app and what the value is. Then we can go out and explain or tell a story to other customers. And we can identify the customers which fit into these potential customer bucket. And that's interesting for enablement program. Normally the big ones like EasyBI and so on, they have definitely training programs because they have super complex products. But I'm really looking forward how your enablement program will look like. I'm interested in this.
I think like a lot of vendors fall into the trap where they say, well, it's your job as the solution partner to write the use cases, right? Well, good luck getting them to sell your app after that.
Atlassian now went in this direction with solutions and so on, and nearly every solution partner wrote tons of solutions, and they facing it different. I discussed it with many solution partners. They have different approaches. They are all super interesting. The solution partner need to think about their own business model, because it's also changing from the server data center world to a cloud world. You don't need to maintain servers anymore. So you are going now more in this business process consulting or training or adoption or whatever. I think it's important to do it together and to identify with a solution partner what is your unique value selling. That's a classic buzzword now, but what is your unique story to a customer? Why IBM should buy Capable from Adaptavist and not from another solution partner, for example. So all names are just placeholders, so it's not a recommendation for going in a direction. Good. Building a partner portal, we can talk about offline about it. The feedback what I'm getting is that solution partners are not happy with partner portal number 50, what they need to manage. It's a little bit what your app is doing, I would say. So the 50 apps. So, but yeah, interesting. 1 year. So what is your plan or what you're planning to be in 1 year? And you have a super clear answer, the magic 1,000. You want to have 1,000 installs on the marketplace. So what is at the moment your install number?
For the suite, we're on about 185, I think. We're coming up to 200 figure there.
That's good. That's so. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you are in the marketplace since a couple of months, but not so many. You have already a good growth rate. Yeah, achievable goal. So why 1,000? Why not 5,000? Why not 500? Why 1,000? What is behind the 1,000?
I think we've all seen the install count and the rating on the marketplace is very important, both of them. I'm not going to talk to the effectiveness of the review system on the marketplace, but the install count, definitely people care about that. And one of the things that we found is you might have a better app than someone else, but if they've got 1,000 installs and you've got 100, it's going to be a no-brainer which one they pick. So I think, yeah, the 1,000 figure is a really good checkpoint for us to say we're on a good trajectory in terms of growth there. And people can trust us because we do have that customer base.
Yeah, I mean, it's also exactly. It clearly shows, okay, there must be somehow a value on the app when 1,000 people have installed it. Cool. Yeah, the review system and so on, we can do a separate podcast episode about it. It has a lot of benefits, but also a lot of, challenges. Let's call it challenges. Perfect. Jack, thank you very much. Let me stop the screen sharing that people can see us completely. Thank you very much. That was super interesting. So we are 1 hour 20 already. Super interesting discussion. I learned a lot new about disruptive ideas, and it was super interesting to discuss it with you. I wish you all the best for the 1,000 installs and the partner program. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to talk latest in this podcast in a year when we can have a party about your 1,000 installs together with your developer in Japan who has and is already in party mode.
Yeah, we'll get Jeff GPT over here.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Have a great one.
Cheers. Thanks, Björn.